Hi, my name is Ozzie, and today we're going to be reacting to a video by Chris Cron. The video is titled, Should I Become a Real Estate Agent? In my previous video, I broke down the realities of becoming a real estate agent. All right, let's take a look at it.
Become a real estate agent. Do you know this last year that the number of brand new agents increased by 150,000? That's a 60% increase more than we've had in the last 2 years. I wonder why. It could be because homes have gone up so much in value that people are thinking, shoot, if I was the realtor on that deal earning 3%, I could have made 15,000, I could have made 30,000 on a single transaction. So you know what? That seems pretty lucrative.
I think it's very interesting that he started off with the point of our industry growing rapidly, which is very true. There have been a lot of new real estate agents that have jumped on the bandwagon, assuming that they will be able to get a huge commission check as soon as they get a sale. Unfortunately, the reality of that is that you're one of the 150,000 that had just joined and become new licensees. And if you didn't come with a person already willing and wanting to buy, the reality is it's going to be extremely difficult for you to find that individual to sell a home to.
And I'm going to tell you right now, because I've done a couple $2 billion worth of real estate, people love to ask me as an investor this question. Chris, do you have your license? Should you become a real estate agent? Is that a good career that I should consider? And today we're going to get to the bottom of it and decide if it's a good decision or not. It's going to be a great video because it's going to contain some of my favorite responses and answers from these questions that I keep getting over the years. Let's just start with this first key distinction. There's a difference between being a real estate investor and a real estate agent. Like, you understand that an investor buys properties. They want to own them and rent them out, or they want to flip them, or they want to do whatever they're going to do. That's what an investor is. An investor might say, hey, this is a home and I buy this and I rent it out. Or, hey, this is a commercial piece of property and I buy it and I rent it out to a business, or maybe it's my business that operates there. So an investor is the owner. But then you have agents. Someone's got to represent you in buying and selling these transactions. And guess what? There's a lot of money to be made on that side of the fence too. Typically 3%, or if you're representing both sides, 6%. You know what 6% is on $1 million? That's $60,000. It's not a small bit of change. So you do then get a ton of investors.
So that's a great point. The realities are that typically the commission range does go around 6% total. But that does end up being split primarily between the buyer's agent and the seller's agent. So when you go to list a house or you're helping a buyer find a house, you're not going to be getting paid that full commission split. And then not only that, but you also have to consider the fact that depending on who you're working for, that commission is going to be split between the brokerage that you're associated with. So the full amount of commission, definitely assuming that you're going to be selling $1 million home, getting $60,000 from that home representing both sides is a pretty far-fetched scenario. It kind of depends on the location that you're with and the real estate amount that you're dealing with.
Investors out there that are also realtors. They're what you call investor realtors. Like, they're basically winning and playing on both sides. And so I get asked all the time, like, Chris, should I do both? Should I be an investor? I'm like, well, everyone should be an investor. But should I also be a realtor? Well, let's find out. All right, so let's have this conversation. Should I become a real estate agent? Let's first get out of the way that there are some benefits to this. Check this out. The upsides of becoming a real estate agent is that commissions vary greatly by state, but income is potentially limitless. Like in Utah, where I live, it's on average $103,000 a year, which is not bad when you consider for a moment that the average person is making, $45,000 to $55,000 a year. The average joint income nationwide is $73,000. So clearly, on average, they're doing pretty well. You also get a super flexible work schedule. There's definitely satisfaction of helping people through a confusing process or make really important big decisions in their life.
I think that's a great point right there, where he is referring to the opportunity of becoming a real estate agent has great upside, but it doesn't mean necessarily that everybody's going to benefit from that upside. When you become a real estate agent, yes, your schedule is flexible. However, it is highly dependent also on the client's availability. So if the client is working day shift and they want to see a house in the evening, well, that means you're also working the evening. That doesn't exclude any kind of holidays, weekends, or even when you're on trips and somebody needs your attention, that means that you're kind of giving them that attention. The only way to combat that is simply to create a team or be on a team already that is able to support you while times that you want to step away from your business. But you're an independent contractor as a real estate agent, so it's your business to take care of them no matter what day or time.
Now, as a real estate investor, I've transacted thousands of single family homes, but even this commercial building that we're in right now, my studio, is a purchase of mine. And in all situations, there's always a realtor involved. I insist upon it for protection purposes. And no, I'm not the realtor on my own transactions. I could be, but we'll talk a little bit later on why aren't I, and is that a good choice or a bad choice? So first of all, understand on the commercial side that for realtors, what they're doing there is they're brokering the sale and lease agreements for commercial properties. So they're basically dealing in the places where business transacts. Some states require a separate license, but most don't. And it's definitely felt or seen as a little bit more of a cutthroat, higher commission kind of game. And residential is something different. You're representing residential buyers and sellers. There's definitely a more stable client stream regardless of economy because there's only so much commercial that's out there and there's only also so much residential, but there's a lot more of that. Like right now nationwide, there's about 500,000 homes on the market. And it's also easier to capitalize on existing relationships because the people you know eventually are going to want to move, they're going to want to buy a house. Most of the people you know are not going to want to buy something commercial, so there are two different games, and most people will specialize and play one or the other. Now there's a lot of people.
I think it's important there to understand that yes, there is a difference between commercial and residential real estate, and most of the times you're not going to be doing both. There is a chance that you might dabble in one or the other, but it's really an advised risk that you're taking when trying to deal in something that you're not specialized in. So if you're specializing specifically in the residential market, you have to understand where you're currently residing. And that ends up being the market that you're going to be targeting, being that most people don't end up wanting to travel more than an hour for any kind of commute. So if you do travel more than that and hit a major city near you, the economics of that city is highly dependent on the real estate market. And so if it's performing poorly and there aren't a lot of interested buyers and there's just a selling frenzy, there could be situations in which you're not making what you want to make, or you're in a position where there might be times where you're sitting on a couple listings and things aren't moving the way you want them to move.
People that say, well, Chris, if I'm going to become a real estate investor, because over time I want to grow my money into millions of dollars and I want to have a portfolio of homes and I want tenants that are paying them off, or I want to flip properties, right? They say this. Does it make sense for me to get a real estate license? Like, will that make me a better investor? Almost as if becoming a realtor is like an education course on investing in general. The answer is no, not really. A real estate license teaches agents how to negotiate on someone else's behalf, not necessarily how to invest in the market for themselves. In fact, there is a lot of confusion. I'll actually meet realtors that almost want to pretend that they're investors, but they actually don't own any property. They're just facilitating it for a lot of other people. They actually don't own any property.
Yeah, I think that that's so true. When it comes to, it's almost easier for an investor to become a real estate agent than a real estate agent to become an investor. There's a lot of nuances that once you're actually investing your money in real estate, you've been through a transaction, you've been through contractual issues, you also have dealt with home ownership in general. And I think that leads very easily into you being able to help another person walk through that process as well. But a real estate agent going into the investment side is a whole nother story. You really want to get your money involved as a real estate agent and practice investing in order to really support clients who want to purchase investment properties.
Remember that when you get a real estate license, you're signing up to have a job in real estate. Being an investor, if it's a passive play, it's you owning something that is making you money that doesn't require your time. So, being a realtor, that's an active game. I have to go out and look at homes, or I have to meet people, or I have to do computer stuff and send out contracts. When you own real estate as an investor, it's just something that you own that benefits you. So, Chris Crone, why aren't you a realtor on your own deals? Well, beware of this. Difficulties investing as a real estate agent include legally needing to disclose when you're dealing with anyone that you're probably going to make some profit on the property that you're trying to get under contract. In other words, they need to know that you're also a realtor, and what that can do is that can scare a lot of people off. I don't think it's necessarily like a major bad negative thing. For me, I hate paperwork, and I'm really super.
I don't think it's really that important in the sense of whether or not a real estate agent lists their own investment properties. It's true that you do need to disclose it, and there's a lot of legal things that you kind of want to be aware of when you're doing that. But it is the primary benefit of being a real estate agent and having your license to do your own transactions. You're saving 3 to 6% commission, and sometimes more. There really isn't a defined amount of savings when it comes to being able to represent yourself.
Intentional with how I want to spend my time. So understand that I am playing a game where I am wrestling either my money or someone else's money or the bank's money, and I'm trying to put it into a property so I can get that property to perform and produce a certain ROI for me. Playing the realtor means, well, that now I'm trying to find the property and I'm trying to earn commissions per deal. And for some people, that actually might be the right gig. For me, it's a distraction because I own a lot of other companies. I do a lot of other things. I really highly value my time. So who then should consider?
There it is. Being a distraction is like the key aspect when deciding which route you would like to go. A lot of the times it is truly what a distraction. And most of the times when you're buying an investment property as a real estate agent wanting to focus on transactions, you're going to find yourself kind of weighing from that and focusing on the issues associated with your property or trying to find deals for yourself rather than for your clients. And that can kind of distract from the goal as a real estate agent to make as much sales as possible. And then as an investor, in order for you to not have any issues focusing on the investment side of the business, you really don't want to spend your time doing a lot of the contract managing, the paperwork, and also dealing with just the legal issues behind it. If you have 1 or 2 deals, that's fine. But if you're dealing with 50, 100 deals a year, and you really don't want to dabble with both sides, focus on what you do best and make the money where it counts.
Who then should consider then getting their license? I've definitely been known for advising people to find a way to have an excess $50,000 a year or more that they can invest. Now, that's rough for a lot of people's typical jobs because they're like, yo, I make $50,000 a year and I have $40,000 a year in expenses. I'm not going to have 50 grand left over, Chris Crone, to invest. And that's why I'm always encouraging people, you got to find something more lucrative. You got to find a better paying job. And often that's getting into the sales game. And guess what it is to be a realtor? That's a game of sales. It's a type, right? I've got other people that do solar sales, and other people work for other sales organizations. Well, being a realtor means that if you get good at that game, let's just say you're making $250,000 a year. There's $50,000 on the side that you can use to now invest, and now you can follow that advice. So I always tell people that if you're going to trade your time for money,
I think it's important to note that if you have an additional $50,000, you're doing great. However, not everybody's going to have the luxury of having $50,000 on the side to spend on an investment property. So the reality is that there are other options to get into the investment category without having to spend $50,000. You can do house hacking. You can buy your personal residence and then move out, rent that out. There's so many options when it comes to starting off small and growing your portfolio over time.
You've got to pick a career where that trade can be the most meaningful, because that's all you have in the beginning is time. And you got to carve something off on the side to be able to invest so that you can actually get ahead and start winning. And so understand that becoming a realtor is a job, and it doesn't make you an investor. It could make it easier to get in that game or be more aware of it, or help you make enough money that there's excess money so that you can do it. Which means if it's your core thing that you're trading your time for, it should be something that you're good at, or something that you like, or something that you really want to do, because it doesn't come without its struggles. No sales job is easy. So if realtor is not the option for you, maybe it's...
That is 100% fact. If you don't love dealing with people and you don't love real estate and working with contracts, and you're just focusing on some magical show that you've been watching on Netflix or YouTube, you're really going to struggle as a real estate agent. It is a job. It is something that you have to focus on significantly more than your 9 to 5. You're on call 24/7.
some other game in sales, but you have to understand that the income is often irregular. It's unpredictable income. There's definitely a burden of responsibility. Like, you got to follow the paperwork the right way. You've got to disclose all the proper things. There's an unethical way of playing that game, so you have to follow the rules of the game, and you have to be willing to grind for clients. Like any sales gig that can pay you a lot of money usually means you got to have a whole lot more hustle in your system than most people do. If today's video had anything to do, however, with wanting to become a real estate investor, because ultimately...
So overall, Chris Kern's video did shine a light on the realities of becoming a real estate agent. I think that there's a lot still to that needs to be established. Go watch our video on becoming a real estate agent. I think there you'll see a lot of other details that you will find interesting and probably give you a better understanding of what to expect when becoming a real estate agent.